Derek Vaughan, Labour MEP for Wales. What do you make of these plans for a Circuit of Wales racetrack?
Well, the plans themselves are quite exciting. It's a £280 million project, and the developers say it will bring 750,000 visitors to the area and could create 6,000 jobs. Because the plan is not just for the racetrack but for a hotel and leisure facilities, so it's got huge economic potential for the area. So if there is a funding gap, then I think they should be encouraged to apply for EU funding. That's what EU funding is there for, to boost the economic prosperity of some of the deprived parts of Europe.
What would the hurdles then be that this project would have to jump over in order to be able to access European funding?
To access EU funding, it would have to be shown that the particular project would bring economic prosperity to a region. So in other words, it would need to show it could create jobs and it could provide training opportunities for people, particularly young people as well. But looking at the proposals for the project, this project could well fit in, because the idea is to use this racetrack as the way of regenerating the area.
And that's really what I wanted to ask you next. The potential, do you see potential from this project for wider regeneration for this part of Wales if this project can get off the ground?
This part of Wales and Blaenau Gwent has already received EU money to help regenerate the area. But this is a new project, and if it does go ahead, it could create 6,000 jobs and it could regenerate the whole area. Therefore, I think it wouldn't meet a lot of the criteria. So if there is a funding gap, and I'm not sure if there is, but if there is a funding gap, then I think this sort of project would be eligible for EU funding.
I mean, there's talk of money required of the region of 30 or 50 million pounds. So how much of that potentially could Europe come up with, do you think?
I think one of the problems in Wales at the moment is that the Welsh Government's capital budget has been cut by 40% by the UK Government. And because of that, money is also short at local authority level. So the money isn't there to pay for some of these big schemes. That's why EU funding is so important in the future. And that's why I think if there is a funding gap, it should be possible for the project sponsors here to go to the EU and ask for funding. Obviously, they'll have to put together a project and it would have to go through the right process. But I see no reason why they can't at least apply for funding if there is a funding gap.
And there's potentially, I guess, millions of pounds available for Wales for regeneration projects. Presumably, this would be one of those that would fit the bill for figures in that kind of region.
One of the things I've managed to achieve in this current European Parliament is to increase the amount of EU funds Wales is going to get by around £500 million. So in the current round of funding, Wales should get £2.1 billion worth of EU funding, and that funding will be able to go towards things like infrastructure schemes, training schemes, and any schemes really which benefit the local economy. So this type of project would again fit into that sort of criteria.
What would the risk be to Gwent, would you say, if to this region if this project doesn't go ahead? How important is it that it does now get off the ground in your view?
Well, there are many projects suggested and brought forward right across Wales, including in the South Wales Valleys area, and some of them come to fruition, some don't. But I always think it's important, if somebody comes up with an idea and it has the full backing of all the authorities in Wales, then that project does, if possible, go ahead. And I think that's particularly the case with this project. It has the potential to create many jobs and regenerate a new area. So I would hope that everybody who can back this project will back it, including the European Union.
And just finally, is it something that you would be able to help with if this project does want to put together a bid for European funding? You know about all the funds out here in Europe. Is that something you can assist with in some way?
Well, my main job is to make sure Wales gets EU funding, and I've been successful in that. But of course, if any project in Wales, including this one, wants help and advice where to go for EU funding, then I'm there and I'm ready to help.